Athletes are always going to be on PEDs. Do you think just because there's testing in a certain event that guys aren't juiced out of their minds? Like, that you must be so naive to think that. Like, you think guys are competing in the NFL, in their late 30s, 40s with traps from their AC joints up to their ears. Do you think those guys are natural? Are you out of your mind? The guys at the top who are making millions of dollars, those guys are part of the big teams, will always have the resources and money available to them to hire the doctors to help them beat the test. And the whole purpose of steroid testing is so that you don't have natural athletes competing against unnatural athletes. But you get that anyways, because the guys at the bottom can't afford to or don't have the resources to beat the test, and the guys at the top do have the resources. So then you just end up with guys who are naturally competing against guys who are juiced up anyway.
Hi, this is Shadi. Today's topic, I find it very important. Being responsible is something that we always have to be on the lookout for. Disclaimer, this is not to push anything or to promote anything. This is for educational purposes. And I think that we really need to talk about it. A lot of people just tend to shy away from it. But personally, when it comes to safety and how to use it, there should be more talks regarding this topic. It's very much like sex ed in school. No one can tell you what to do, but in case you want to do something, you need to do it the safest way possible. And people are just too shy to talk about it. Very similar. So this is something that obviously a lot of people know about it and they see it. But when it comes to truly discussing it, it always comes in a mood that is just all about jokes or accusing someone to take away from their hard work or whatever it may be. However, today I'm going to tell you that what we always look at, social media, YouTube, etc., we are overstimulated and we're constantly looking at things, and we need to remember that these people are the genetic elite, less than 1%, and we're looking at them perform to the point where anything else that you watch that is slightly below, you think that it's bad and it's a joke, and people tend to mock it, whether it's a physique, someone's working hard in the gym, people asking them, do you even lift? Or someone who's grappling, that they look mediocre, or someone's playing football or tennis, whatever it may be. And I think we need to kind of put our feet back on the ground again, because this is something that we also need to put in mind. Now, not everyone is using them. That's very obvious, of course. But those that are using them, the advantage that they are getting, you have no idea the extent of it, because it's not just about the strength and the muscle. Sure, in bodybuilding, it's very obvious because that's their sole goal, to be as full and big and lean as possible, while in grappling, even sports like tennis and golf, people are getting popped. So imagine how powerful these things are. And what people don't realize is that this is not just about muscle and strength, but rather they can have a huge effect on your psyche and also your endurance. So I'll give you an example. There's a study, I believe, that came out in the 2000. There was a short documentary on it. It was just regular folks in their late 50s, close to 60 years old. So this is almost retirement age. So these are fathers, people who go to work, and maybe they do a little workout here and there. They put them on TRT. For those of you who don't know, it's hormone replacement therapy. And of course, the first thing they started to notice was they looked a little bit more muscular. They lost some body fat, of course. But here's what really stood out to me. What stood out to me was the fact that the study found that they were more present in the household, in their marriage, as a father, as a husband. They were more involved in their wives' lives and their children's lives. So clearly mentally they were in a far better place. And the second one, which in my opinion is the most important one, even in our context, like sports, grappling, contact sports, the the results found that they were actually more, if not, equal, if not more productive and competitive than their colleagues and co-workers who are in their mid 20s and early 30s. And that is huge if you think about it just a little bit. Imagine you are already in the top 1% when it comes to the genetics and elites, and you had a very fortunate life to be actually put in something from a very young age, and then you add on top of it this, you become literally a superhuman. So again, not everyone who's just looks normal or big is taking something. I think you know this. There are people that are just genetically gifted. When I meet a lot of the professionals in judo and in grappling, and first thing I look at is their forearms, their wrists, and their hands, and they just look like they are powerful people. So it's not always about the look. So imagine, let's say you take something, and there are a lot of compounds. I'm not a doctor. I'm not gonna try to go into them. I suggest you watch Mike Israetel. But there are a lot of compounds that actually do not even add that much weight to your frame, or barely any. Maybe they give you a more of a full look or a sculpted look, whatever. But in terms of endurance and that mental sharpness, they're crazy. Some people report that it's like a kid who wants to go down to recess. They're waiting for that bell to ring, and that's how they want to go to training. So when you hear people say, don't judge me, or say I'm this or that, when they're looking obviously very suspicious, they say, I train twice a day, I wake up at 5 a.m. Yeah, they're probably doing that because they're taking something. So let's just say, again, forget the muscle and the strength for 1 second, and let's talk about the mental edge and the endurance that they're given. So let's say two people, one is natural, one is not, and at the end of the year, the one who is enhanced, they're probably doing something like 2 to 3 times more hours on the mat than their counterpart, and that is huge. So imagine they did 3 years worth of training, let's say, in 1 year. What would take you 3 years? I mean, that's crazy. Even if they come to the competition clean and everything's out of their system, the endurance that they built, the knowledge they accumulated on the mat, the muscle memory, etc., 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 all these things, imagine just the advantage. And this is how grappling is now just shooting up, 10, 15 years ago compared to now. Or I'm not just talking about grappling, everything, football. Go watch the Champions League. In the last 10, 15 years, how many of these great athletes that you watched have added to their shelf life 5, 8, 10 years even? Like, I remember 2008, 2010, if someone, a footballer, is 30 years old, that's an old man. That's someone that should be in a retirement home almost. That's how they were looked at. Now you have these athletes that are 35, 38, running and scoring these goals, and it's crazy. Like, have we evolved that much as a species in the last 10 or 15 years? I refuse to believe it. So as you can tell, as Gordon Ryan says, you'd be naive to think that everyone is just clean and everyone is just so ethical. No, I refuse to believe it. But then again, not everyone is doing it. But at the same time, to think, organizations, because they're big, because they say they're testing, that everyone is clean, again, I also refuse to believe it. Just if you go and expose yourself to a lot of these professionals, you realize just how gifted they are, and at the same time, so many of them look like Chris Bumstead and Ronnie Coleman when they take off their gi. It's absolutely crazy. So this is something that needs to be talked about. Again, if you are someone, maybe early adulthood, maybe you're climbing up the ranks, please listen to me. If you want to do something, and if you're considering doing something, because the talent pool is so big and no one's going to stop you to be the best or wherever it may be, talk to a doctor first. and make sure you've already developed at least 25 years old. Your brain, etc., all of these are still being developed. If you expose them to whatever it may be, these chemicals and stuff, they can forever alter your brain even when you come off of them. So please, that's something else that's very dangerous. The long-term effect when you start using them very early. You have YouTubers who are in high school and TikTokers in high school, and they are on massive amounts of drugs. They're setting themselves up for a terrible quality of life later on, and just for clicks and likes. I know, yes, they're sponsors, whatever, but I don't think it's worth your mental health later on, your quality of life. So please, there's already the injuries and a lot of the stuff that we have to go through in grappling and in MMA and all these fighting sports, contact sports. So don't add to that lower quality of life. Consult a doctor. There's always something to be done. Anyway, I can go on and on all day, but if you have something to add, let me know down below. This was Shadi, and thank you for listening.